One thing that really pulled on my heartstrings, was we got to do the triumphal entry. And so we wanted to recreate that. And we didn't have a donkey. And so they said, Cody, you're the donkey. I said, absolutely, I got this. So we got Pastor, I think it was Comache. And the Bushman people are very small people. They're thin, and they're all about 5 foot tall or shorter. And so he jumped on my back, and we started at the front gate, and I could hardly tell there was anything on my back. And the day before, we went out and we gathered palm branches for everyone, and we cut all the thorns off of them, and they're waving these palm branches and they're yelling. Well, then the women start taking off their wrapping around their head and laying it on the ground, and I'm walking across their cloths. And it went from being fun to being like very emotional for me. Like my skin stood up and the hairs on my arms stood up, and for me, being a part of that was amazing.
Welcome to another session of Word with Patrick Smith. Today's session is special. Well, wait a minute, they're all special. And today I've got a good friend of mine, Cody Bryson, in the studio with us. We're going to explore who Cody is and where all this joy that he has, where does it come from, how it spreads, and how infectious his laughter is. So with that, we're going to jump into it and get to know Cody. Thanks for being here, Cody.
Woo! Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for the invitation, and I'm just ready.
I love that energy. I knew that you were going to bring it. Cody, I start off every session with the same question, and I don't like to do the introductions. I like for people to get to know the guests and let the guests open it up. So tell me who Cody Bryson is without telling me what you do.
Well, Cody Bryson, he's I wasn't expecting that question. I'm a follower of Christ, lover of Christ, I would say, and family man. I love my family so much, and I just love people. I'm someone who I get to interact with hundreds of people, I would say, a day. And you get to bring, like you said, bring the joy. We're all dealing with something every day, whether your mountains are molehills to me or vice versa. And I want to be that person that puts a smile on someone's face every day. And also show them the love of Christ as well, because the way I carry myself every day, that'll make someone say, I want to know what that guy has, what's in his heart. Mm-hmm. And, when I'm also a kids church teacher at TVCC, and I tell the kids that I sin too. And there's been days that I have disappointed myself, but we get up in the morning, we pray, and we say, I'm going to do better today. And when I get to that mountain, I'm going to climb it today.
Yeah, that is you. That there's no doubt. Tell us about your childhood. Where'd you grow up?
So, interesting question. I'll just start from the beginning. My parents met each other. They were never married. I came along. I am the youngest of my mother's children. I have an older brother and I have an older sister. And when I was about 1 year old, my dad and mother decided that they couldn't make things work anymore. And he said, I'm going to Tennessee to my family. I was born in, Three Rivers, Michigan. And he said, I'm going to Tennessee to my family. And she said, okay. And so they cordially split up. There was no, custody battle or anything. And whenever I wanted to go see my mom, I had that option. And so I stayed in Paris, Tennessee until third grade. And I got to see my mom every summer. And then I moved to Michigan with my mom for third grade year. I don't know the years, so I can't tell you 1997, 1998, but third grade year, I moved up there with her. They moved from Centerville, Michigan to Muskegon, Michigan. And it was a lot bigger school system. The town was a whole lot bigger, and I didn't like it. So I said, Dad, I want to come back home. And so I came back to Paris, Tennessee, 4th and 5th grade. And then 6th grade year, my dad, interesting about him, he worked on a towboat. So he was gone every other month. And I didn't really like that because I didn't ever get to see him. And so I moved back to Michigan with my mom. And I stayed there. I lived with her from 6th grade to 10th grade. 10th grade year, my stepdad and I had a falling out. And this is a tough part of my story for me, but God got me through this because he said, this is where I'm going to mold you. So 10th grade year, him and I had a falling out, and he told my mom, it's either the boy or me. And she chose him. And I moved to Sturgis, Michigan, back to my brother, who is 10 years older than me. So I'm 34 now, and he's 44. So in 10th grade, I was 15, 16, and he was 25, had his own house. And I said, this is awesome. Got to do what I wanted to do. No rules, just as long as I'm home to sleep in my bed. And my grades started going downhill. I started failing. School started calling. And my aunt, my mother's sister, my Aunt Peggy, and her husband, Uncle Merv, they said, hey, you're going to come live with us just down the road. So I moved 15 minutes down the road. And my aunt said, one requirement for living with us is you're going to go to youth group and you're going to go to church with us. And I said, well, okay, I've never, that's fine. I've been to church before. And my parents go to church here in Paris, or my dad and stepmom, and they go to Church of Christ. And so I've been in church, just never really knew that connection. I go to youth group and I meet this guy. He's 6'8", great big old burly guy named Jason Sylvester. And then the other youth leader, Charles Gentry. And those two guys took me under their wing, and they said, we're going to do this. You're going to be our basically brother. And they'd pick me up. We'd go out to eat. We'd do stuff with youth group. And Sundays, I'd go to church with my aunt and start getting involved with church. Started being part of youth group. Started being part of kids' church. Started doing ushering. God had a hold of me, and I wanted to be a part of it. We went to a youth conference in Detroit, Michigan, and I kind of, I felt the pull on my heart. And I had been baptized when I was, I want to say 9 or 10 at the same church that my aunt went to. And then I was baptized again on that youth trip. And I was ready. I was on fire, and I wanted to see the world. I wanted to do things for Christ. Well, my senior year, my aunt and I had a falling out. And the common denominator between all these falling outs is my attitude, is me. And sometimes we want to point at all these people, but that common denominator is me. I had a bad attitude. So I moved back up with my mom at that time. Her husband and I, we made amends. And a lot of people don't know this about me. I dropped out of high school. And then when I turned 18, I went to night school, adult education, and did that program for, I think I finished it in 5 months and got my high school diploma through Orchard View Adult Ed. And some people see that as a mark on you, and so I haven't told a bunch of people, but I'm proud of it because you look at where I am today and all the people that I get to meet, and you say that, and I don't use that as a crutch whatsoever because a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, and it encourages people too. So I graduated. My mom and her now ex-husband got a divorce, and I moved back to Sturgis, Michigan. Moved back to that church and got involved again. And for a year, I kind of fell away. It's not like I went out and ran the town or anything. It's just I wasn't going to church. I wasn't praying. I wasn't in the Word. And so moved back in with my aunt and uncle and started getting involved in church again. Became an usher again, bigger in youth group this time. And we'll fast forward. I started actually, this is interesting. I started at Walmart. My very first job, I worked at Walmart. I got fired. And for 2 months, I was depressed. I was like, I don't want to get a job. I don't want to get fired again. And this guy named John Farron, he owned Boundary Waters cafe. He said, I need a dishwasher. Do you want a dishwasher? I said, okay. So I took that job. And dishwashing turned into cooking. And I love to cook. If anyone knows me, they know I can whip up something good and quick. And he showed me that, sometimes you just got to add a little salt and a little pepper. You don't have to always go out of your way and add rosemary and all the other ingredients. Sometimes it's just a little bit of salt and pepper. And I've taken that through my whole life is we don't always have to add Hollywood effects to everything.
Yeah.
A little salt and pepper will do it just fine. And I think that's how God has worked in my life, is a little salt and pepper here and there, and here we are. So Boundary Waters turned into, I got a factory job because, of course, like most of us, we want more money. And then that factory job turned into making office furniture for 2 years at a place called Izzy Plus. I made chairs and tables, and I stayed in church, involved, and like anyone in their 20s, you explore things, you get hooked, you get into a crowd of people that you're trying to impress. We buy things to impress people we don't like.
That's very true.
And so fast forward, we'll go ahead and fast forward to 2014. I came to Tennessee for the summer. Maybe it was 2015. 2015, came to Tennessee for the summer. Our factory shut down for the summer. And I came here and hung out with my dad. And there was a tornado, straight line winds on Guthrie Road where now I live. And it wiped out some houses and whatnot. Well, then I go back to Michigan. And in October, my dad calls me. No, September, my dad calls me. He says, I have cancer. Colon rectal cancer. And we're going to fight it, and it's not looking good. Well, that week, I said, what do I do? I prayed about it. I said, God, what do you want me to do? My girlfriend at the time broke up with me. I said, okay, you just made things a whole lot easier, God. I went to work. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I started making plans to move to Tennessee. Just no job, nothing planned. I'm going to come down with my dad, and we're going to be down here. And so I packed up my 1987 Chevy 2500, my dog, and all my belongings in my truck. It's almost like a country song. And I moved to Tennessee. Well, the next few months, my dad went through chemo. He had surgery where they opened him completely up, went in, cut out the part of the colon, the cancer that was in his rectum, and then he got a permanent colostomy bag. And everything looked good from there. He did a little more treatment afterwards, and then here I am in Tennessee. I'm now working at Dana. I have my own house I'm renting. Things are lining up. I'm going to Eastwood Church of Christ. And then at Dana, I meet this lady named Marcia Smith, who's now my wife. And we start talking, and we go Titans games together. We go on a few dates, and then we realize that, we're meant to be together all the time. And it's one of those things that my crazy kind of suits her quiet, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone talks about opposites, and we are quite the opposite because she is predictable, she is planned and quiet, and I'm quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Could be driving down the road and say, you know what, I want to try that restaurant right there, and just whip in there.
Yeah.
So we, how do I want to go with this? So I always told myself that I don't ever want kids. I never wanted kids of my own. And I love kids. I love kids' church. I love being around the youth and just being loud around them. But I said, I don't ever want my own kids. Well, when we began our relationship, I got 2 bonus kids. I've got Will and Walker, and they're her boys. And when we met, I think they were 13 and 15, and now they're 22 and 24. I think I may have said that wrong. I'm sure she'll correct me. But I got to be that, like, I wouldn't say dad figure, but that older brother mentality kind of. And I said, this ain't so bad.
Yeah.
She had to worry about me doing wild things. Whenever she would go to work, I worked afternoons, she worked days. She would tell the boys, don't let Cody do anything wild. And she'd come home for lunch one day, and I'll never forget it. We were playing tag on four-wheelers. And I had flipped a four-wheeler in reverse. I broke 2 ribs, and she came in the house, and I'm holding my side. She's like, what's wrong? I said, I may have flipped a four-wheeler. And she wasn't upset. She's like, that's your own fault. And she said, are my boys okay?
Yeah.
And just the adventures we've had. And I've got to say, I'll put this in there. My wife and her ex-husband have a great relationship. And we have been able to co-parent that. At first, I think a lot of people can relate when another man comes into your boys' life or your kids' life, your antennas are up, your radar's on.
Yeah.
You're not sure what this dude is about.
Yeah.
But Mike, their dad, had figured out that he's harmless, he won't hurt a fly, and he loves my boys just as much as I do. And I would spend every last dollar I have on those 2 boys just to get them through whatever they're going through. And so we've been able to co-parent very well and communicate very well. And anymore, he'll call me before he calls my wife about something because we're both involved in the boys' lives. And I think that's very important because sometimes in a relationship, when 2 people split, there's animosity there. You're angry. But when there's kids involved, we have to put that animosity away. And we have to be able to say, hey, it's not about me. It's about those kids, about the boys. And we were able to do that. And I've been honored to be able to be a part of their lives. And I'm going to jump all around. But
well, and we got plenty of time on this. Let's listening to what you're saying. When you were growing up, going back and forth, that had a huge influence on who you became.
Mm-hmm.
You being in Michigan, being in Tennessee, being forced to your mother choosing husband over you. That seems to be a big part of driving who you are, and sounding like the relationship that you now have with your 2 stepsons.
Mm-hmm.
How did you become so compassionate through all that?
There was I was angry at the time because I couldn't believe my mom chose him over me. But God had put people in my life, Charles and Jason, my aunt and uncle, who have showed love and compassion to me, who had said, hey, you may not be our blood, but we're still going to love you. Mm-hmm. We're going to love you when you do crazy things. We're going to love you when you do the wrong thing. And I think just me being shown that compassion, I can show others that compassion. Because you look at that and you say, I can't believe, or I couldn't fathom being, I don't want to use the word abandoned, but kind of like.
That's a good word. Abandoned is a good word.
My mom
cast off.
Well, I want to say she had good intentions because she was kind of pulled in the middle. But, when you're kind of pushed off like that or cast off, these other people said, hey, we're going to step up. We're going to do this. And I think that's what really drove me is I was shown love from people who didn't have to show me love. I look at the many kids in our system that their parents abandon them and they don't have the people who show up and show out and say, hey, we're going to take care of you. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thankful God put those people in my life.
Yeah, because you could have gone lots of different ways. Mm-hmm. You went through some times, sound like, where you were drawn close to the church, drawn close to God. Mm-hmm. And then also sometimes where, you question, am I really moving in the right direction? Is God even with me?
Right.
And it sounds like that's part of what created where you are now, to where that time in your life of finding those people, finding those markers, those people to guide you or shepherd you along the way.
So when we go to church up in Sturgis, Michigan, we when my wife started going with me, people told her, "Hey, we didn't know how Cody was going to turn out. We really didn't think he would make it as far as he did, but God had other plans."
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time in my life. We'll get to. Let's go back to the 2016-17 era when I was working at Dana.
Mm-hmm.
I had 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I'll admit that. Outside of work, I was the nicest person, kindest person you ever met. We were involved with Sweet Jordan's, and I loved working up there, and I was kind to everybody. But as soon as I went to Dana, I took that shirt off, and I was there to work. I was there to make money. I didn't care about you. I didn't care if I hurt your feelings. Sometimes they would send people to me, new people, to see if I could get them to quit before lunch. And that wasn't, I look back at that now, and a lot of people say, well, I wouldn't tell people that. But that's part of my journey.
Yeah.
And we got involved with TVCC through the St. John's own Sweet Jordan's, and they went TVCC. So we started kind of going, and then we got involved with it. I got involved with the kids' church. We became, well, actually, this is funny. We didn't become members until about 3 years ago. And they said, do y'all want to become members? I was like, well, I thought I was already a member. But that's a story for another time. But then this guy came up to me. We were involved with Sweet Jordan's. And he said, do you want to come work part-time with me? And I always think about me. I've always had a part-time job and a full-time job just because I need to stay busy. Idle hands are not good because I'm going to build something I probably don't need to build. Or I'm going to tear up something I don't need to tear up. And this guy's name is Brad Ridgway. And he said, do you want to come run flowers at the funeral home? Well, just start doing little stuff, vacuum, clean. I said, yeah, absolutely. Well, I started working from 8 to noon every day at the funeral home and just getting to see the people we came in contact with. And I loved what we did. I started working funerals. I started going on some house calls with them. And then about a couple years later, I think it was 21 or 22, I can't remember the date. He said, do you want to come on full time? And I was an instant yes. Mm-hmm. And that's my issue is my wife says that I just answer things and I don't think about it. And I called her and she said, well, we got to think about some things. Slow down, slow your roll. We gotta pray about this. And she is the wind to my sail sometimes because she's like, hey, slow your roll. We got to pray about this.
It's great.
And I think sometimes as men, we can get caught up in things. We're like, yeah, let's go. Like, push on the gas faster because I want to get there first. And the women in our lives, our wives, are like, whoa, let's think about this. And so we prayed about it, and we thought about it, and everything lined up. And I went to Ridgeway Funeral Home full time, put in my 2 weeks at Dana. And that right there has really showed me the love I can show people because I'm that person 100%. And I've relied on God more in that career path because to me, I tell people all the time, it's not a job, it's a ministry because you come in contact with people that they are experiencing the worst day of their life. And so me seeing the trauma in my life at a young age and not feeling wanted and sometimes, wondering why I am where I am, I look at all the stepping stones that if you look at one thing, my dad having cancer, I would have probably not ended up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
If I didn't go work at Dana, I would have probably not met my wife. You look at all those left and right turns that God said, hey, turn here, go faster, slow down. We wouldn't end up where we're sitting.
Right.
And I really look at that and I look at my path through school and all the moving I did. And I wouldn't be sitting here if all the things didn't happen that did happen. So
did the we're up to the funeral home. So what surprised you the most about working at the funeral home? What was the people like working with? Because people are oftentimes, when you meet them, they are in a bad place. They've just lost someone. Their life has come to a screeching halt, and then they see you. They meet you.
So everyone can correlate to this, that if you're having a bad day, people can tell you're having a bad day. So in what we do, when they come in, you can't be having a bad day. You have to be on top of your game, because when someone comes in and they're in that mindset, they don't want to see someone who's like, hey, how are you? They want that love. Hey, I'm so sorry. Whatever you need, I'm here to do it. If you want coffee, water, if you need me to go run an errand, I'm here for you. And it has really pushed me to be that person that others rely on.
Yeah.
You got to have that positive attitude, and you have to be ready to go. I told you before this, I was in the truck psyching myself up.
Yeah.
You have to be on your game, because the last thing I want is someone say, I went to Ridgeway's and that guy he was more depressed than I was,
Yeah.
and just show them that love. And
Yeah.
I've had chances to share the gospel.
Do you think that your experience growing up? My father moved around a lot whenever he was young, and they moved back and forth up north and to the south. They would share a crop in the summer, and they'd work in the factories in the winter. And he had this ability to connect with people. He never met anybody that he didn't have a way with. And your moving around exposed you to a lot of that.
Yes. So I love connecting with people, and everyone can ask my wife about this. If I see Patrick Smith out in public, I'll look at you and I'll say, what can I relate to that guy with? You pull up in a certain vehicle, I'll ask you about your vehicle, and I'll figure out how I can connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that from up north, because I don't want to offend any northerners. I'm a northern. They can be the most, you walk through a grocery store and they're not going to talk to you. If you don't know somebody in a grocery store up north, you better not say, hey, how are you? Because then they're calling security. Hey, this guy's. But just having that ability to connect, because Paris is one of those wonderful places that we have people from California all the way to Michigan, all the way from Florida. We have the four corners of the world in our backyard here, and we have to be able to connect with everybody. And you can judge, I don't want to say judge, but you can, what's the word? Look at somebody and just know how you need to approach them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you said, moving back and forth, I have been able to make that connection with people.
Mm-hmm.
I've never
been pushed out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. Moved around.
What is a comfort zone?
Yeah, exactly. You had to create it. Mm-hmm. You had to find it. You had to come to that peace, but it was through trials and tribulation.
Mm-hmm. I have never said no to try something, just because, like you said, comfort zone. What is it? I don't know what that is, because I'm willing to try something. I'm willing, if you point out somebody at Walmart and say, I want you to go talk to that person, I'll go talk to that person.
Yeah.
It's not a dare. It's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Because I think too often we'll go back to my youth. That is our identity.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not my identity. Talking about where I graduate from, that is not my identity. My identity is a child of Christ. And so I think too often we are plagued by our identity. And I'll share my story of my youth all day long, but that's not who I am. It's helped me form who I am. It's helped me make a relationship with Christ, one where I rely on Him.
It is a lot of who you are, though, mm-hmm. because there are so many people that they never escape the framework that somebody told them that they had to be in. And you mentioned about going back to church up north, and that people say, "Hey, we didn't know, we weren't sure that Cody was going to make it."
Yeah.
So people were putting you in a framework. You could have been conditioned to be locked into this world where, hey, he's disruptive. He's a high school dropout. He's not going to make it in this world. But you didn't choose that path.
So interesting you say that. I had a high school guidance counselor. We had a program with Grand Valley State in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when I went to school in Muskegon, that during the summer they had a police academy for youth. And I signed up for it. And she said, Cody, I'm not going to send you. It'd be a waste of money. You're never going to really become anything.
Wow.
And that has stuck with me ever since. And at first you're angry about that. You're like, I don't like that. But she's right. That wasn't God's plan for me. And now I'm 34 and I'm doing other things, and I see that and I'm like, you know what? I'm not mad about that anymore, because that would have sent my trajectory somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as we get older and more mature, we don't get hung up on those things anymore. We're like, you know what? That formed who I am.
Mm-hmm. I see so many people that allow those comments like that one, or allow the journey to stop them, to where they stall. They don't move beyond whatever that childhood trauma, as you said, happens, and they stay in that. Being able to move through that it's powerful, and it's a testament to your faith, because finding God certainly had to have been what kept you moving, kept you going through that fire. Were there times where, when you were young, where, like now, joy flows out of you? It just beams out of you. When you were young, was joy the primary emotion that was coming out of you?
I never really had any anger. I always stayed busy doing something. And I don't know that, looking back then, I don't know if I had joy or not, but I wasn't a fighter. I love people. I think I've loved people my whole life just because that's who I am. I love being around people. I'm sure there's parts of my life where I'm like, what's the point of this?
Mm-hmm.
But if there is, I don't remember much of it. They're in my youth. Now, there's been parts of my adulthood where I didn't have joy, and I thought maybe God was angry at me, but I just had to be rained on and cleaned off a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
what was the struggle like with having you work with children now, and you can relate to children of blended families or broken families? What was it? Did you get to spend a lot of time with your father in between the tugboats? You said you didn't get to spend a whole lot of time. Who were you spending time with during that period?
Well,
who was influencing you?
So when I'd come to Paris, live here for a little bit, I spent a lot of time with my stepmom, Cody Bryson, and her parents we lived right next door to her parents, my grandparents, Joanne and Franklin Venable, and spending time with Granddaddy Frank, just being out. They owned some property in Cottage Grove, and they farmed, and I loved always being around him. He was a big part of my life when I lived here. And then also my uncle, Ed Cuthbertson, here in Paris, and his two boys, or Ed and Rhonda Cuthbertson, and then his two boys, Adam and Luke. I spent a lot of time with them, and I still spend a lot of time with Luke. And just those people put a lot of time in me when I was down here. And then when I lived up north, one one person, two people, Peggy and Merv Jarrett. They're the ones I lived with, and he passed away about 2 years ago. And he's a person that kind of took me under his wing, and sorry. And I got to watch his walk with Christ as well as I had my walk. And the thing about him, he was a huge fisherman. Fishing was his drug. It was addiction, I would say. And if it was nice on Sunday morning and the wind was just right, he would skip church and go fishing.
Yeah.
Well, when he started making that relationship with Christ, he said, you know what? I can wait till after church. And God used him and his boat and all of his fishing equipment to minister to people. New guy come in church with a child. He said, hey, you guys want to go fishing after church?
Mm-hmm.
And he loved to do fish fries. And have you ever met a guy that he's like, he knows the answer to everything and it's usually right?
Yeah.
You know, when you buy a car, you don't let them know you want it because then they're not going to haggle on the price.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, you always shake your hand and look in the eye to somebody. And he just always had those tips to make life a little bit better.
Of wisdom.
Wisdom, exactly. And today I'll say something and I'll say, yeah, Uncle Merv said that. My wife will jot it down, and, you know, the wisdom of my Uncle Merv. And life with me was not easy. I'll tell you that. And they really relied on God to guide me to where I needed to go. And, you know, some days I was real bullheaded. And when I got fired from Walmart, I'll never forget it. He woke me up that morning. It was a couple weeks after, because I said, I want to go apply for jobs. And he woke me up. We got in his truck. He was on his way to work. He dropped me off in town and said, when you're done, I better see a stack of applications or you better have a job. And I don't think if he would have done that, I would have been motivated to try to get a job.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started working at Boundary Waters. But you know, he knew I had more in me.
Yeah.
And he never, you know, just folded the cards and said, I'm done.
You had so many people in your life that continued to lift you, and you said we used the word earlier, and probably wrongly now listening a little bit more, the word abandon. You've never been abandoned. It doesn't seem like. You've always had somebody there that has been putting their hand on you. People see things in you, or see God in you, or see the joy in you, or see the potential in you, and have put their hands on you your entire life.
And I think that's important in my life.
Except for the lady that told you weren't ever, you shouldn't, apply for this.
Hey, I'm glad she did. But that's why we'll go into another rabbit hole. You look at people and you look at their friend circles. What do they say? Birds of the same feather flock together. Well, you look at me and I'm with, I'm a peacock. I'm colorful and, I'm loud. And then I'm mixing with guineas and, you name it. And I don't have that group of people I hang out with, because I love everybody, just because I've had so many people instill things into my life and say, hey, you might be a little crazy, but we're going to get you down to a level that you can survive, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand peacocking.
And, Uncle Merv, he instilled a lot of wisdom and guiding me in things in life. Usually if he was somewhere, I was right by him, or vice versa. And so when I moved, it really hurt my heart, because we still talked on the phone, but we didn't get to do a lot of things together. And one memory I have in my heart, and this is why my wife doesn't trust me with some things. Our youngest, Walker, did high school fishing, and I was the boat captain. And in high school fishing, you have two kids and a boat captain. They can't drive the boat, only you can. and I got a special written permission that he could come down and boat captain them. And I said, I've got us a hotel in Smyrna, and my wife would allot me a certain amount of money for hotel and fishing gear. And I said, if I get a cheaper hotel, we'll be able to spend more money on fishing gear. And we pull up to this hotel, and the lady's behind a bulletproof glass. And she says, "Is that your boat out there?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Well, when you get to your room, back it up to the wall because someone will take your motor off your boat." And I said, "Oh." And she said, "If it's loose in the boat, it needs to probably go in your room." And there we are. We're in a hotel room with about 40 rods on the wall. My uncle's kind of thinking his decision that he just drove 12 hours down from Michigan, and my aunt is back at our house here in Paris with my wife, and they're going to come the next day. And we didn't sleep a wink that night. I sat in front of the window watching my boat the whole night. And I'll never forget that adventure because they went out the next day. They didn't catch any fish, but he got to experience what I got to experience. And the only reason I did what I did is because he taught me everything. He taught me how to fish. He knew that Cody had no skill; it was all luck. And but I had a chance to reciprocate that. Like you got me to this point.
Yeah.
And the smile on his face as he took those two boys out on I forgot the name of the lake. Anyways, they'll come back to me. But as they went out, it was so awesome just being able to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer allowed to book hotels, just to let you know.
I believe that.
My wife was very upset. So
yeah, that's the hotel stay was an experience in and of itself. Let's talk about your time now, like at the funeral home.
okay.
What was the biggest surprise to you in that job? What was it that made you say, this is something that I really want to do?
It's not a job for me. It's like I said earlier, it's a ministry. And just we're a family there. All of us are one team. And I've never had that before. When I worked in a big facility like Dana, you're on your own. You're there to provide for your family, and that's it. And there, we're a team. And, if I need a day off, I'll say, "Hey, does anyone want to swap with me?" And we'll do that. But the fact that they don't hold back on, if you come in and we're serving your family, Cody, you go talk to them. There is no, "Oh, well, that's not what you do." If I want to come up and talk to you and, get some information and whatnot, Brad, Angie, Chad, Jess, Eli, Brian, we're all a team there. And we just support each other. And it's kind of funny because I'm like the little brother to all of them. And then you got Eli, who's even younger than me. And that's the biggest surprise to me is because I've never been a part of like a family business. And kind of my role is to take care of, I mow our cemetery and I fix stuff around the funeral home. And I get to also serve families on funerals. And I got the awesome opportunity to preach a funeral the other day. And, just there is no limit to what we do. Mm-hmm. And I love the unpredictability of it because each family we serve is totally different from the last. Mm-hmm. And I love that part of it.
What does preaching a funeral look like to somebody that has never done that before? What is that stage? Because it is you're up there in front of a weeping, tearful family oftentimes.
Well, thankfully, the gentleman I got to honor by doing that was someone who lived the fruits of the Spirit. He was a kind person. He was a quiet person. So it was really easy for me to lay it out and honor his life because he had two things. He was a Tennessee fan and he was a kind person. Everyone I talked to, even his family, said, "I don't think I've ever heard him raise his voice." Wow. So for me, I was like, wow, this is... I don't have to try to fake anything. And one Chad Kennedy told me, he said, the only thing we don't do is preach people into heaven. And I didn't have to do that. So
That's an interesting concept.
mm-hmm.
Preaching, yeah. After they've passed, it's kind. You speak kindness of them,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't, I guess, oversell it. Is that what would that be? Preaching
Yeah.
somebody into heaven?
I think so. And another kind of aspect he said was, you hear it many times in a funeral. Well, when you get to heaven, they'll be on a bench waiting for you. Well, you just place that person in heaven, And we have to be careful with that sometimes because if you're not sure, if you didn't know somebody, if someone didn't know who I was and they just looked at Cody and my wife said, will you preach his funeral? And they don't know that, of all the things that I do or the kindness or, that I love Christ,
Mm-hmm.
they would have to either just say something real nice about me or they would have to get me into heaven. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you have people that at the funeral or whenever you're serving them at the funeral home, do you ever have them that just assume you stay away, get out of my space? We don't want to talk.
I've never had that happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when they come in, they know they're, going to have to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah. That's got to be difficult. I mean, on your side of the table.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when a lot of people come in the funeral home, they are kind of opened up. They know what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm. What does grief, how does that manifest itself at the funeral home?
I guess I understand your question.
Whenever grief is somebody's wearing that grief, I suppose. How do you get them through the grief?
So I'll hit two examples here. We had a young woman come in, lost a baby. And children, you can ask anyone in the funeral industry, children are the hardest thing to, even for us. And she was crying, and thankfully I knew her stepmom. And I said, look, I do not know how you feel. I can't relate to you. I'm giving her the truth. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat anything. But I pulled up a few verses where it talks about children are in heaven. There is a special place in heaven for babies. And so I said that to her, and you watch the tears kind of dry up, and the grief, I don't want to say the grief left her, but it was almost like a breath of air came into her. And then another example would be, so I started in 21 or 22, I can't remember the year, full time at the funeral home. And before that, the closest thing I had to grief was I had a grandparent pass away. Well, in 24, starting, so interesting, I'll start here in June of 24, I ran my first demolition derby. And you're probably thinking, Cody, how's this go with this? So I was jacked up. I was excited. My mom, my uncle, some other people all commented. My wife went live. They watched it. They said, we're so proud of you. My dad drove down to Dyersburg and watched the derby with my family. And it was so cool because I felt like a NASCAR driver. I had 30 people in the crowd rooting me on. And then I had hundreds on Facebook Live watching me. Well, a month from that day, we went to Michigan. And I just had an awesome month, experienced a lot. And we celebrated my Uncle Murph's 70th birthday.
Yeah.
He's now on hospice. He's battling cancer on this day, on his 70th birthday. It will be his last birthday. And we knew it wasn't much longer. So we have his birthday on a Sunday, surprise birthday party at the church. His girls came in from Iowa. We came in from Tennessee. He had no clue what was going to happen. We had a big taco bar. We had a Twinkie rack because he loved Twinkies. And so I made it my journey to find every flavor of Twinkie they had. So we had chocolate, we had mystery, we had banana, we had regular. I had every kind of Twinkie. And then at the end of the church service, our pastor said, Marv, you don't know this, but we're having a 70th birthday party for you in the other sanctuary. And there was hundreds of people over there, and my wife and his daughters put it all together, and it was amazing. Well, the next day is a Monday, and we're driving home. And we get 6 hours from Michigan. We're now 2 hours from Paris. And I get a phone call from my sister. And I'm thinking, okay, where she said, where are you? And I knew, just in my heart, I knew Uncle Murray had passed away. And I said, we're 2 hours from home. And she said, you need to turn around. Mom has died.
Oh, man.
And we weren't expecting it. She had a massive heart attack and died almost instantly. And she wasn't feeling good. She got out of bed, called her neighbor and said, hey, something's wrong. I'm calling 911. By the time the ambulance got there, she was on the floor, dead already. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm going 85 down the road. I'm tearing up. I'm crying. My sister's yelling at me. I'm yelling at her. And we pull over in a gas station. And I start sending out texts because I have a lot of stuff this next week that I have scheduled with work, fair board, whatnot. And everyone, my boss said, you take as much time as you need. And I hate calling Brad my boss, but my leader said, you tell me what we need to do. If we need to do something down here, you let me know. So we turn around, we make the 6-hour drive back. We've been going to Michigan every month, sometimes twice a month, to see my uncle who's on hospice. And so we called the hotel we stay at all the time. And Dawn, we became great friends with her. She said, I've got your room, your same room. Don't worry about it. Just come on up and it'll be ready for you. And so things started getting in motion. And my sister said, I'd like for you work at a funeral home, I'd like for you to try to take care of everything with the funeral home and whatnot. And we made arrangements and got my mom cremated, saw her for the last time and whatnot. And then we come back home after we get all that taken care of. And then 12 days after that is now Fair Week here at Henry County. And I'm on the Henry County Fair Board. Busy week. And I get the phone call that my granddad, my mom's father, had passed away. He was 96. This was his second child to lose, and he just went downhill and passed away. And then that's all taken care of. And 14 days after that, actually, let's back up. 10 days after that, I get the phone call that said, hey, Uncle Merv's not doing well. It's going to be soon. So we go up there, and they get the hospital bed for hospice. He is now where he needs to be in a bed. And I spend the next 7 days, 6 or 7 days with him. Marcia flies back to Michigan, or flies back to Tennessee from Michigan so she can go to work. Brad Ridgway said, you take as much time as you need. We've got it here. If you need something, you let us know. And he passed away at 10 a.m. one morning. And funeral home came, got him. I helped them out, did what I felt like I needed to do. And then we came back home. And we took care of everything. And I spoke at his funeral and just tried to honor his life as best as we could. But then we'll fast forward to my job now, and I can actually relate to people. When they lose, a mother or someone real special to them, I feel like that has pushed me to be a better servant for them. A better, guide for them of, hey, this is what you might need to do. Or, someone will say, hey, my mom loved the lake. And I'll say, hey, this is what we do, or what we did. We bought a biodegradable urn and put her in the lake. So I feel like my loss in 1 month really pushed me to be better at what I do. And, it's not a job. It's more of a ministry for me.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to grieve?
I did. So 6 months after all that happened, you'll like this. We were in Sam's Club, and funny story, a couple years prior, I text my mom, and my mom was a baker. She loved to bake. And I said, hey, can I have that famous chocolate chip recipe you had? And she said, yeah, it's on the back of a Toll House bag. And I said, what? No, you had it wrote down. She said, yeah, I wrote it bigger so I can read it. And I said, are you kidding me? And so fast forward to after she passed 6 months, we're in Sam's Club walking around. and there's a big pallet of Nestle Toll House chocolate chips. And I started breathing real heavy. I started sweating. My wife said I went pale, and I had a panic attack.
Yeah.
I had no clue what was happening. And thankfully, TVCC, Pastor Steve Gallimore, Marsha reached out to him and was like, hey, Cody needs help. And I wouldn't say I needed like mental help, but just someone to guide him. And he gave me some scriptures. I had a big group praying for me. And now I get to use my grief to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one thing I told a family is the easiest part is this funeral. Right now, the next 3 days, when you go from planning to visitation to funeral, that's easiest 3 days you'll have in this whole process. It's 6 months from now when you're by yourself sitting in a chair and you're thinking about that person and there's no one there to stop those thoughts from rolling through your head.
Yeah.
And, I had some what ifs roll through my head with my mom. What if we would have stopped there that day before he left? Or what if, and we can what if ourselves to death. It's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to think about the good memories. We have to get over the bad memories, and we just got to go with the flow and rely on Christ for that. And you'll have your days where you cry. Crying is not unacceptable.
Right.
Cry, yell, be as loud as you can, because that's part of the process.
That is. Wow, that was a lot in just a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a strain on anybody, regardless if you've been in the funeral business
right.
or anything. I didn't realize all that. I'm sorry for that.
Well, thank you, but it's. I look back at it now and I'm like, not too many people. You have one a year.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. That was a lot.
We had 3 in 1 month, but we got to honor all their lives, and so.
When did you get into the derby business? When did that come about?
So our sons, their dad was big.
It after the 4-wheeler tag?
Yeah. So Walker won his first derby at the age of 17 at the Henry County Fair, and his dad was big into derbying and kind of got him into that. Well, after he graduated high school and got out of high school fishing, he got right into demolition derby. And they derby, and I announce demolition derbies. We travel all over, and I have some of the best people I work with doing that. And we were at the Henry County Fair one year before I was on the board, and someone came up and they said, actually, I was with my cousin Luke, and he looked at Justin Chilcutt and said, have you found a demolition derby announcer yet? And Justin said, no. And he said, well, this guy will do it, and pointed right at me. And I said, I've never done it, but I'll do it. And like I said, I'll do anything once. And that's kind of how that spiraled into control, or out of control. And then one year, Walker was like, well, if you're going to announce derbies, you got to at least run one derby.
Yeah.
And he built me a car. A 21-year-old built a car for me. And so
that's I've always wanted to do that. That looks like so much fun.
It was for about 30 seconds, and then I had to remind myself to breathe. I had to remind myself to, run, because when you're getting chased by other cars, you're like, oh, I better get out of the way.
Yeah.
And your adrenaline's pumping. For me, it wasn't, too much of an adrenaline rush. It was real weird, because there was 17 cars there, and I knew every single one of the drivers. And they're like, hey, we're on your side, don't worry. And I'm like, who do I hit? And but it was so much fun, and we did it for a St. Jude benefit. Some of my derby family has become closer than some of my other family, and so we have this crew out of Dyersburg, the Richards family, and they do benefits for St. Jude Children's Hospital. And so we got the opportunity to run in one of their derbies, and it was amazing. And I've had the opportunity to announce for them, and we've done some food reviews together, and I love making people family to me.
Yeah.
You don't have to be blood. And everyone needs that person on their side.
Are there any station wagons left in America?
Oh, yeah. There's a guy in Canada buying them all up. He'll go to Arizona and get them. But if you want to do you want to do a derby?
Yeah.
I'll hook you up.
I mean, it sounds like a fun thing. I don't know anything about it. I've wrecked plenty of cars.
All you have to do is put your helmet on and just hit somebody.
Oh, I'm there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Henry County Fair, we'll get you.
That sounds fun.
Do you have a preference? Do you want a minivan? Do you want a big car? You know,
I want to be able to,
some of these
smash.
guys are running 800 horsepower engines.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you want to do that.
I don't. It's all in reverse, isn't it?
Some of it, just depends on how much work you want to do.
Yeah.
I think you'd be great at it. So I'll put that on my agenda. Henry County Fair, I think it's the 28th, August 28th.
That sounds fun. There's no telling what kind of trouble we can get in with that.
Are we going to put the word on the side of it?
Yeah, we'll do that.
All right.
Smash it up. The where all do you do these derbies? Because I have seen you announce some of these on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how involved you were in them, though.
So a couple years ago, I got involved with Wicked Derby Promotions, and they were based out of Illinois. They did big derbies in Kentucky. Well, then some people here in Paris, Tennessee bought the promotions. And I'm good friends with, there's two sets of people, one family, another family, and they partnered in, and I'm good friends with both families. And they said, do you want to be Wicked's announcer? And that to me says, not when we're just in Paris. They said, when we go to Sturgis, we're going to Tunica in October. So wherever we go, do you want to announce for us? I said, yeah, absolutely. If my schedule allows it. And thankfully my work I'm able to change that schedule around a little bit. So I've been to Sturgis, Kentucky. I've got to announce the Wicked show here in Tennessee. They called it Terror in Tennessee. And I get to go to Tunica this year. So we go to Sturgis 2 or 3 times a year, and then they'll have one other big show somewhere. And so this year we're going to be in Tunica. And then I've got to announce for some other promotions in Corinth, Kennett, Missouri. Trying to think where all I've been. It's hard to
give us a sample of what announcing a derby's like.
All right, give me a second. I gotta get in that realm now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the 2026 Kennett Boot Hill Banger. Something like that. And or I'll be like, red flag, red flag. And then you'll count them down. You'll be like, 3, 2, 1. Green flag, drivers, green flag. So I used to yell over the microphone.
That's what I was expecting.
Well, Derby Nation TV, they do all of our derbies on TV. You have to buy a subscription. And they said, look, Cody, you're blowing us out in the trailer. Hold the microphone closer. Just be deep. Adjust your volume. You do not have to yell. And so just being coached on that, because too often we're like, oh, this is how I'm going to do it. I don't like it. No, that guy coached me. I said, yeah, I can do that. Go with the flow. And, it's also saved my voice too, because first couple times I announced at the end of the night, I would be hoarse. Yeah. And they're like, just talk in the microphone loudly. You don't have to yell.
Yeah.
So let the speakers do the work.
Yeah.
And try to be as clear as possible. Like when we go to Sturgis, we have people from Michigan, Wisconsin, Canada come, and they said, this guy's as country as cornbread. So just try to be clear for everybody. Yeah. And my favorite thing is we have some vendors that they're involved with Wicked. I'm trying to think of her name. She makes Demolition Derby cookies and cookie cutters, and she'll give me a whole bag, and I get to throw them out in the crowd, and it's so much fun just being around that many people.
I could see you being an excellent hype man.
Oh, I love it. We'll play the chicken dance, or we'll play some other music, try to get people just jacked up in the crowd, and I love it. And my attitude is I don't like fighting. If I have to, I will, but I don't want to. So I had this lady come up to the announcer stand, and she's just giving me down the road.
Yeah.
She's being rude. She's cussing me out. And she's upset about something that happened on the track. And me just being as calm as a cucumber, I politely said, "You could kick rocks, leave me alone." And that's what I said exactly verbatim. And she said, "I'm going to go get my husband." And I love this part because I told somebody, and I said, "She's going to go get her husband. Apparently he's going to beat me up." And he said, "This is the friend group I have." He said, "Well, he better get in line because I'm first." I said, "I appreciate that."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. You make friends wherever you go. There's no doubt about it. I'm saying you.
yeah.
You make friends wherever you go. It's just it just comes out of you.
Life, I've learned this a lot working at the funeral home. Life is too short. I don't have a pen on me. Do you have a pen? No, I got better. I'm going to have an example for you. So life right here, that is our life here on earth. That little tip. From wall to wall is our eternity. And so that little tip is going to determine your eternity. And our life here on earth is way too short to be angry at people. You know, like I said earlier at the beginning, the things you're struggling with might not be a struggle for me, but vice versa. And we have to understand that there might be someone who woke up this morning, went outside and had a flat tire, and that just destroyed their week. Like, that's their weekend extra $20 that they were going to actually eat a piece of meat this week, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so whenever I go somewhere, I don't want to be the grump that they're like, "Watch out for that guy. He's in a bad mood." I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that for that 45 minutes that you're around me, you escape whatever you're dealing with outside of our circle, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you definitely bring that joy, and I got to witness some of that firsthand at our first annual sled Olympics that we had.
Oh, that was amazing.
It was. You really blew the lid off of that, and
Well, that wasn't me. That's everyone's attitude because we all just had fun that night. And I think biggest thing about me is I feed on people. So, like, if you're coming with a good energy, I'm going to have even better energy. And I think even if you came with a bad energy, I'd turn that dude around.
you do.
And it's so much fun to be around people who are enjoying life.
Yeah, I remember that time in particular, you challenged me. And you challenged me in a way that was exactly like you're saying. It was I brought what I thought was positive energy to the day. You brought energy that was like energy drink off the rails. And it pushed me to be more, I don't know, outgoing in that moment, more excited. There was a lot of kids there. People had their children. There was some 16, 17-year-old kids that they couldn't keep up with us.
I think we had a whole lot more fun than they did.
I know we did. Yeah.
We're cold. Cold? What's that?
Yeah.
So, and I feed off that energy of people because even when Fish Fry Parade, I hung out at Patriot Mart, and there was people who came in, and Patriot Mart shuts their parking lot down, and you could park there. You're right on the parade route, and there's people that came in, and you could tell that they're just there so their kids can watch the parade. And if you came in, I was like, "Let me see your game face," and they're like, "What?" I was like, "Arr!" And even the workers there, you know, his crew that were pumping out food, they're like, "Oh, we got to hurry up." I was like, "Let me see your game face." They were like, "Game face?" I was like, "Arr!" You know, just trying to get everyone jacked up and ready to go, and everyone needs a hype man in their life.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you have shown me some things, and in the times that we've spent sled Olympics or helping hands or out and about, I've seen that and fed off of that, and sometimes I think that I do that. Sometimes I think that I'm the hype man, but then I see I see you in action, and and I'm not even in the ring.
Well, I've got an extra C4 in the truck if you want to try it. There's not much that'll get me down. Letting other people down, I hate doing that. But other than that, I try to stay as positive as I can.
Yeah.
Because one thing I'll say about the funeral home is we see a bunch of different situations. And so I don't have time to be negative, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
You want to try to sway every situation to the good, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. That's not easy.
No, we're challenged often, but
because people sometimes want to be. They lock themselves into this mindset of anger or mad or despondent. Like I can't. I'm never going to be able to get over this. I'm never going to be able to get past this. My life is unfair. My mom dying, unfair, all of these things. And it's not easy to.
The biggest thing for me is, you talk about my joy and whatnot, is we see that funeral and we see people who, they don't have what I have. They don't have the support system. They don't think they know who Christ is and whatnot. And they no longer want to be here on earth. That's how I'll put that. Mm-hmm. And so their family's there they have to grieve and they have to pick up the pieces. And so I'm not going to blame people for being in a bad mood sometimes, because I've never had to deal with a situation like that. But when they come in and they see me or they see the other guys that work there, we want to be in as good mood as possible, because we don't want this to be a black strike on their life. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so the different situations we handle, really, we get to show them love. So, and I've watched people come in all crying and sad, and by the time they walk out, they're laughing, they're hugging us, and that's big for me, because I don't like to hug people.
You don't like what? Yeah.
I'll do a side hug, but I don't like I'm just not a hugger.
Well, hugging is the best.
Yeah, I mean, we can do a side hug. I'm just not a big hugger.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know where that comes from.
A big Cody hug it's got to, that's like hugging a big bear.
Well, there's certain people that I'll run up to at church. I'll pick them up, but that's about it. I'm not gonna, sometimes I think hugs are weird, I put on deodorant, am I sweating? And those are things that walk through my head, are like, am I prepared for a hug?
Yeah.
I have to jack myself up like I'm about to hug this person. So, and then for some reason, next thing I know, they're over my head. So.
So there was, you did something extraordinary, and a lot of things that you've done up to this point, by the way, are extraordinary, but you did something extraordinary recently, and you went on a mission trip with TVCC to how you said Namibia, Africa.
Oh, that was amazing. So before we even jump in there, I'm going to tell you said everything up to this point. And one thing I preach at that funeral is, when you live, for me, it's 1991 dash, and then there's going to be a date at the end, and the date in the end and the date in the beginning, it doesn't count. It's what's in that dash that counts. So I try to fit a bunch of stuff in.
That's great.
And I can't take that. Brother Randy Stevens has preached that many times, and I kind of stole it. So
I'll tell Randy its word is making it around.
But I did have the opportunity, amazing opportunity, and God was there the whole time. And you guys are going to be like, well, okay, explain. 2019, we went to the beach. Actually, 2020, before COVID, we went to the beach. We flew back from the beach, and I was sweating. I was panicking. I don't do flights well.
Oh.
And
Flights and hugs.
45 minutes from Pensacola to Nashville, I thought I was done for. We went through turbulence. It wasn't great. So I was asked, Cody, would you like to go on this mission trip? And I said, without a doubt, I said yes. And we got in the car, and I told my wife, or she knew she was there, and I said, well, we need to talk about this. She said, well, you already told them yes. And so I had to figure out, work and whatnot. My boss was great about that. And we started praying. I prayed that God lifts any anxiety off of me for the flight, and I prayed for our trip. And I wasn't really worried about the people we came in contact with because, buddy, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready to go. I was ready to meet them. And a lot of people say, I'm going to make a difference. But I was ready for them to make a difference in my life.
Yeah.
Because it's not always about what can we do. It's what can God do in our lives. And so do you want me to just start from the beginning?
Tell me about this trip.
So it started 3 months prior. We left in March 26th. But before that, we met every Thursday in the morning. And the biggest thing is TVCC is paired with Degnos over in Namibia, Africa. There's a guy named Andres over there, and he's kind of running Degnos in that area.
What is that? What is Degnos?
I wish I could tell you what the acronym stands for, but they're a missionary group over there, and they work with the Nine people, or they work on the Nine Conservancy, which I kind of explained is a Indian reservation in America. So it's this land set aside for these people, and I want to say there's 4 or 5 different tribes that they call themselves, and the Bushman tribe is who we go and minister with. Not to. In the past, missionary groups have went over and they said, this is how you're going to do it. This is what you need to do. We know God better than you. And Degnos has worked on a program to say, hey, you're going to lead your people. You don't need us to lead. We'll help you. We'll do what you need to do. We'll bring missionaries over, and we're gonna kind of guide you. But we're not the end all be all. We are not God. You're going to rely on Him yourself. So they have a facility in Grootfontein, Namibia. And so they'll bring them from the conservancy there, and they'll train up pastors and evangelists. And it is very important, and the 3 months prior is very important that when we go, we do not, let's say, assert dominance. We do not say we're the leader. It is important when we go that we say, hey, we're here to help. What do you want me to do? You want me to clean dishes? You want me to pick up anything? I am not above anything. And
right.
It's very important that we keep that when we go. And so that was eye-opening for me because as a kids' church leader, I am like, just ready to go, loud, and center of attention, as you'd say, kind of. And so when we went over there, it was kind of like, you're just as a support. We're going to their support. So March 26th, we meet at TVCC. Robert Horner, Ben Malone, Joe Stewart, myself, a small team of 4, all of our families. It was interesting because I was probably the first and only person to show up with a derby car in the trailer because my family was going to Arkansas for a derby.
Yeah.
And so we were both going out of town. And I wasn't nervous. Not at all. Sometimes when you go somewhere or you're in a big crowd of something and you feel that feeling in your stomach and it comes up through your lungs and it kind of quivers and you're kind of nervous. I didn't have that. We went to Nashville. We checked in, went through customs, checked our bag, got on the airplane, flew to DC, and I was like, wow, that was great. Well, then in DC, we got on our big flight, our 14-hour flight, and all the way to South Africa. I was like, are we even in an airplane?
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing. And so we landed in South Africa. I did a candy bar food review. Their candy bars are not like ours, not as sweet. Big mistake because if you watch any of my videos, I'll eat half the candy bar.
Yeah.
And then we got on another flight and we went to Windhoek, Namibia. and that's the capital of Namibia, and that's where their big airport is. And we flew in there, and we got to our hostel, and I was like, that was it. Like, my anxiety, God had lifted that anxiety off of me, and it helped with the group of guys I was with, because it wasn't kind of like you're on your own. It's, we're going to walk you through this. And we prayed, and we did Bible study on
the other men, had they been on a mission trip before?
Yes. I was
So you were the only one this was the first one for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Robert had been to this area, I want to say 10 times. Ben, this was going to be his third or fourth time, and Joe, this was going to be his second time. And this was my first. And so there was no anxiety. There was no, nervousness or anxiousness. And it was amazing. And so flying to Windhoek, I actually sat next to a kid who is flying home from South Africa on holiday, which is their like vacation, and had a good conversation with him. And his parents his grandparents ran a missionary church in Windhoek. So it was an awesome opportunity to be able to talk to someone. And then
I understand you didn't get to drive because you weren't skilled enough, and that Ben Malone was, since he'd been there, he was the skilled driver of the group, right?
We'll get to that here in a second.
All right.
We'll get that here in a second. I don't want to throw him completely under the bus, but it's coming. So we flew into Windhoek. We stayed at a hostel. And then from right there, we started our Bible study in the morning. So I want to say we were over there for 8 days, because we were traveling for 6. It took 3 days to get there and 3 days back. And so in the morning, we'd get up at 5 in the morning, do a study from 5 to 7. 7, we'd go over it, and at 8 o'clock, we were hitting the ground, ready to go. So we packed up, we did our study, prayed right there in the hostel. And for those who don't know hostel, it's a big public area basically in this big building, and you're in the middle of everybody. People are coming in, getting breakfast, and they're seeing what you're doing. And so we went and got our trucks, and we stopped at a mall there in Windhoek, and a group here in Paris had donated, I want to say it was $200 for us to buy crafts for the kids. So we stopped at this mall, and we spent $200 American on construction paper, scissors, crayons, glue sticks. Joe was kind of reserved. He was grabbing 2 or 3 glue sticks, and I was grabbing 10 to 15 glue sticks. Because even if we spent over our budget, either we were going to kick in money, it was going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Because the exchange rate over there is $1 of ours equals 17 of theirs.
Wow.
And so great exchange rate, and things are very inexpensive over there. And so we had 3 or 4 of these great big bags, and the workers in there realized these guys are going to buy up everything. So they're grabbing carts, helping us grab everything. And I said, I'm not going to short these kids nothing, because even if we don't use it, we can leave it there for them to use later. And I like that idea. So we began our journey to Grootfontein, to the main headquarters, or the main compound of we began our journey to Grootfontein to go to the main compound of Degnos. And it was about a 6-hour drive. We stopped there in Grootfontein. They had a grocery store. We bought our groceries for the week.
Did they have energy drinks there?
They did. They're limited to 100 milligrams per energy drink. And I think the one I have today is 300 milligrams. And candy bars, we stopped at a gas station. We exchanged money, and I exchanged $300 American, and I had a big wad of Namibian cash. And what I'm thankful for Robert, he said, don't carry all that out in the open. Put some in your wallet and just transfer it in there as you needed it, and which I was thankful for. We stopped at a gas station, and I'll show y'all a picture that you could show the people. There's, I want to say 10 candy bars and 5 energy drinks that I bought for like $10 American. And I told those guys, I said, in America, that would have been about $60 right there.
Yeah.
Because candy bars, $4 here. And I loaded up, and we had dessert for days and energy drinks for days. But then we got to Groot, and we're still dealing with Degnos people. Um, that's where I met Andres and his wife. And then we met his son, Alex. And Alex is who we're going to kind of key in on. And he is kind of following in his father's footsteps. He's 26, 27, and Ben has really focused on him and, like, what's the word? Mentored him and invested in his life. And Alex is just a good, I would compare him to a redneck here in Henry County.
Okay.
He's just one of those guys. He loves to hunt, fish, be outdoors. Him and his dog Bullet, and he has a good relationship with the Bushman people.
Yeah.
And he is fluent in Afrikaans and English. And so in Namibia, the main language is Afrikaans, and English is what they're teaching in schools. But when we get to the Bushman tribe, they're going to speak Junkwazi, which is a mix of, I think they said, Afrikaans and their own language. It's not a written language, so you can't pick up a book and read it. It's some clicking, like rolling the tongue, like kind of like that, and then words. And they don't have a specific word like that camera. We say Sony camera with a tripod. They would call it, we'll go something even similar, or simpler. We'll go lions, tigers, cheetahs.
Yeah.
They call a lion a big cat with hair. Cheetah with a big cat with polka dots. That's how they kind of explain things.
Interesting.
And so it's real simple, but just no written language. And then
some of the tell us about the clicking and the rolling of the tongue. That sounds bizarre to us, but I mean, we do. For us, let me say it like this: it seems rude for us to make noises as opposed to words, but that's part of their language.
So we'll show your viewers part of that. I have a clip, and each, like, they'll say a word. I don't know how to explain it because I don't know how to speak it, but to say a word, like, let's say lamp, they would say the word and then 2 clicks, or they would do a click and then the word, or a click in the middle of the word.
Yeah.
But I've got a small clip I'll share with y'all, and you can show the people, and it's very interesting. And just how they draw out their words. And so you'll listen to them say Tennessee, and they'll say Tennessee in the United States like they're supposed to, and then they'll click with it or something. So
that's very interesting.
It was interesting to watch them. So we don't call them interpreters. They're not called interpreters over there. They're called evangelists, because each evangelist has a tribe or a village that they take care of. And so the evangelist can convert English into Junkwazi or Afrikaans into Junkwazi. And we had, whenever we'd go out, we'd have one evangelist with us, and that's what they would do, is convert. And then Alex can speak Afrikaans, and so he would be our evangelist as well. And the way he talks to people, it was just amazing. We'd be driving down the road, and you would see someone on the side of the road, and I'd say, I want to buy that from them. And he'd just start talking to them, because every night you'd have to go out and get firewood. And I'm, look at me, I'm kind of chunky, and it was hot over there, and I didn't really want to go get firewood. So I said, Alex, offer that person so much for that firewood. And he would talk to them, and, most people didn't want to sell their firewood, which I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not angry about it.
Yeah.
I need the exercise. But just how he spoke to people, and just seeing his love for Christ, and, it's not I'm better than you kind of mentality or attitude. And just his love for people and the kids. And I love kids ministry. I love it here at home, and I loved it over there. And those kids hung all over us. And one night we were cooking. So where we stayed, once we got to Chumkwe, that was we'll get back to that. So we left Groot, we went to Chumquay, and for about 4 hours we had no phone service. And
That could be a blessing.
it was a blessing, but it was new to me because we're used to having the world at our hands.
Sure.
And so you're coming up this long road and you see Chumquay for about 20 miles away because they have a cell phone tower in the middle of town. And as you get closer, service pops up. But we get to our compound, and the compound is a single wide trailer. They call it a caravan, a house, and a church. And one way that Dagnos makes money is they'll rent the single wide trailer and the house out to travelers. A lot of South Africans come up because we're only 40 miles from the Kildoon National Park. And that's how they make money, is rent out that house to travelers. But one night we're cooking our dinner outside and the kids are playing on the jungle gym that the church has there. And I went over there and we start playing tag and start running around, and I'm just pouring sweat and I'm out of breath. But just seeing their love for, someone who wants to hang out with them, someone who wants to, run around with them, and just spending time with them and playing volleyball and getting to tell them about Christ. And this Easter camp, we focused on that Christ sent his only son to die for me. Just because you're in the Bushman tribe doesn't mean that he didn't die for you, because he did. He died for everybody. And so just teaching them that and letting them know that he loves you just as much as he loves me. Just because I come from a different place doesn't mean I'm any more special than you are, if that makes sense.
Oh, makes total sense.
And one thing that really pulled on my heartstrings, was we got to do the triumphal entry.
The what?
The triumphal entry.
Okay.
Part of Easter when Jesus came in and on the foal or the donkey.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to recreate that. And we didn't have a donkey. And so they said, Cody, you're the donkey. I said, absolutely, I got this. So we got Pastor, I think it was Comache. And the Bushman people are very small people. They're thin, and they're all about 5 foot tall or shorter. And so he jumped on my back, and we started at the front gate, and I could hardly tell there was anything on my back. And the day before, we went out and we gathered palm branches for everyone, and we cut all the thorns off of them, and they're waving these palm branches, and they're yelling. Well, then the women start taking off their wrapping around their head and laying it on the ground, and I'm walking across their cloths. And it went from being fun to being like very emotional for me. Like my skin stood up and the hairs on my arms stood up, and it was like, wow, this isn't even close to what Jesus felt, but he knew the betrayal that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I loved everything we did with the kids, but for me, being a part of that was amazing. Because
did they understand what they were participating in?
Yes. So, like I said, Jumquazi, they don't have a written language, but their pastors are very good at acting out everything. Everything we do or did, you act out. So acting that out was very important.
Gotcha.
And then when they hung Jesus on the cross, very important, and the beating, and we did the cleaning of the feet, washing of the feet. Brother Ben, he washed he washed one pastor's feet, and then the other pastor would wash another pastor's feet. And that was amazing, just to show them that we're no better than you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was the whole point, to show that we're here to help you. And I've told a lot of people this. We like to think we're close to Christ. Mm-hmm. We like to think we have a good relationship. But this morning when I got up, I prayed. But then I got my truck. I hit that button. It started up. I drove to Patriot Mart. I swiped a card. I got food. Then I came here, and here we are. But when they get up in the morning, they pray for that meal. I don't know where my meal's coming from today. And I like to say I'm close to Christ, but I don't think I've had to rely on him to. I don't want to say that like that, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
I know where I'm going to eat today.
Yeah.
So, and they rely on Christ more than we do.
Mm-hmm. What was there? You've described them as bush people. You've described them but as short people, but really, what did they have there? What was their, they didn't have 4-wheel drive trucks, or what is their lifestyle like?
So this is amazing. We went and we looked at I'm going to say this wrong, a baobab tree. Huge tree, kind of like the Tree of Life in Disney. And we're about 15 miles from Chumquay. And trucks are parked there. And I hear something. I look, and there's this guy just riding his bicycle down this little path. And once you get off the main road, it's all just two tracks and grass. And that's it. And you see footprints everywhere. They walk and they bike everywhere they go. They live in, a lot of them live in, it's a wood frame with metal, corrugated metal on the outside. And that's their house. That's their home. If you're doing a little better for yourself, you might live in a mud house that has windows and a door and might have electricity. But they're simple people. One of the villages, Brother Frankie, he's an evangelist, he lives in. So they had a well drilled. The country, I want to say this right, the country of Namibia helps the Nai Conservancy, each village, have a well. And it's a big old tower with tanks on top of it. Well, their well had went down, and he lives 20 miles from Chumquay. Well, they have a hunting camp, and we'll get into the Bushman tribe are known as the best trackers in the world. Someone will shoot an elephant, and they'll track that dude for 3 days, nonstop. And so a hunter will get the contract for the Nai Conservancy to bring people in, tourists, Americans, South Africans, different countries, to kill an animal, whether it be a elephant, some kind of deer. They have all sorts of deer. And then what he'll do, they'll shoot the animal. He'll hire a bushman to track it. Sorry. And then the hunting camp that this guy operates out of has nice lodging and whatnot. And so Frankie's village had to walk 7 miles a day, 7 miles there and 7 miles back just to get water for their village.
Oh, wow.
So they had a donkey and a cart, and they would carry their water. Well, then the tires were so dry rotted that they had to abandon the cart, and now they're physically carrying water on their back to and from the village. And the men of the village were the ones who were in charge of that. They had to do it.
The men carried the water.
Mm-hmm. So the Easter camp, we took Frankie from his village. And his grandparents were kind of upset because they're like, who's going to get our water? Well, his brother stepped up and said, look, while Frankie's at the Easter camp, I'll do the water. I'll do it all. And we kind of wanted to help them, but Alex, with his guidance, said, don't get involved with the well, because the government, once you pay for the well or you take care of fixing it, the government's saying, hey, it's your problem now. We're out of it. And so you have to wait for the government to fix it, or it's your problem.
I'm wondering, y'all had a vehicle with you. Did y'all transport water for them? So there at our camp, we had water, and so a lot of people know when you travel out of country, you don't drink the water there. Yeah.
So we had about 32-gallon bottles of water, and we gave Frankie, I think, 10 of those bottles, and that we emptied by drinking so much water, and he took them back to his village. So during the day, we couldn't go and transport because we were also doing a camp.
Gotcha.
At the church. So, but when we took him back to his village, we made sure we took him plenty of water.
I want to talk about your experience as a missionary and as somebody that's bringing the gospel with you, and what is that experience like with people like the Bushmen? Explain to us how you brought the gospel, or how you expressed Christianity and sharing the good news with the Bushmen?
So Joe Stewart and I, our goal was to focus on the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so we used games on how we rely on Christ. One of the games is, so we really utilized what we had there instead of bringing a bunch of stuff with us. And that's actually funny. We did bring a lot of tools that we were going to use, like basketballs and footballs, and they all got left in Washington, D.C. They didn't make it to Namibia in time for us to use them. So we took a bottle, much like this one, and we cut about that much of the top. And we took the lid off and just laid it on the table. And for the younger kids, we'd flip that over and it would make a funnel. So the ball would fall in that, and that's how they carried Christ in their life. And then the older kids, we challenged them, because as you get older, we like to think we're closer to Christ and we mature in our relationship, but we also face a lot more trials and fires and floods. And so they had to grip it like this, and we took the lid off, and they had to place that ball on the lip of that bottle, and they had to carry it about 20 feet. And that is us carrying Christ in our lives. So we used examples like that. And then also we blew up a bunch of balloons. And at the time we had about 50 kids inside the church. And we'll show your viewers the video. And we had the pastors involved, the kids' families involved, all keeping the balloons on the ground. And that was us also keeping Christ elevated in our life. And that was so much fun. Just being able to do games like that with the kids, because Joe would take one team and I'd take a team and we'd go against each other.
Yeah.
And Joe Steer, if you don't know him, his energy is just like mine. He's loud, he's energetic, he is the ultimate hype man that you want on your side. So I'm cheering on my kids and I'm cheering on his kids, and we would kind of get in the middle, and sometimes I would slap the ball off the cup or off the lid, and he would do the same. And just having so much fun with them and showing them that we can have fun and learn about Christ. And that was the whole goal. Well, then another thing we utilized is we took a bunch of construction paper, folded it in half, cut it into two, and we made books. And that was their Easter book, talking about the Easter story or the Passover. And we did things like the palm branch, washing of the feet, riding it on the donkey, the cross, the stone being rolled away from the grave. And those were things that we didn't have to put words under. They can look at that and they know what it is. And in the middle of the whole book, they made a mosaic cross. So we took a bunch of pieces of construction paper, drew a cross in the middle of the book, and they glued all that on. And all those pieces represent kind of us. We're all different. We're all different colors. We're all different shapes. But we make up the cross as a whole. We make up the body of Christ. We're all different parts: head, feet, toes, eyes. And that's kind of like how that mosaic cross represented Christ. And so we had to get creative.
Yeah.
Because I've learned one thing about this whole trip, that you can make a plan and then you got to go to plan Z really quick, because as much as you plan out things, you've got to be able to pivot quickly.
Yeah.
And Ben was able to do that. He met with some of the pastors and he ended up coming up with a lesson and kind of talking them through that. And like I said, we had 3 months of planning, and we used probably half of that planning just because we had to move and really change our direction of things. And the Bushmen, one thing I want to hit on the Bushman tribe, they are a non-confrontational people.
Yeah.
So we could be out in this parking lot and you could say, I think we need to make the lines go this way. And I could say, I think we need to go this way. Well, if I was a Bushman and you weren't, and you said, we need to do this, I'd say, okay, sounds good to me.
Yeah. They went along with whatever.
Mm-hmm. And that's how in the past people have kind of taken advantage of them, by knowing that they're not going to argue with us. And so going in this, the team at TVCC, they're very cognitive of this. They're very aware of this. And so they punch us in our brains like, hey, you're not there to be a leader. You're not God per se. We're there to support. We're there to say, hey, whatever you need, we're going to do. And that was important for me because teaching kids church, I'm always the loudest in the room.
You're the biggest kid, huh?
Exactly. And so going into this, I was very aware of that. And God showed me that I don't always have to be the loudest in the room. And that helped me a lot too. And a lot of people say, oh, you did a lot of good over there. Well, they did a lot of good in my heart. Where people, when they get saved over there, when the Bushmen get saved, a lot of them will start to starve because they're no longer going to steal. They're no longer going to do things that they did in the past to survive.
Yeah.
And
that's an amazing transformation that they go through. That whenever they become Christian, they take it so, I don't know, serious is not the right word, but they embody that so much that their entire culture is built around something that's opposite. And they will, in fact, starve themselves because their culture has some aspect of stealing in order to survive or something like that. So they stop that.
Yeah, I didn't see that personally, but it was told to me. Biggest thing about this, what I should say about the Easter camp is, it wasn't our goal to go baptize people and to get as many people saved as possible. And I don't want y'all to think, oh, that's horrible. Our goal was to tell people the love of Christ, because there has been a thing where I want what you have, and it's not because I see you're changing your heart. I saw you baptized, and I think I need that too. And so our goal was to tell them the love of Christ, and then Degnos takes that from there, and they help get people saved. They help them make that relationship with Christ,
because they would just do it because their friend or they saw somebody else do it without any other reason. They just, okay, my turn, put me in the water or something.
Exactly. And that's why I like our partnership with Degnos, is because Andres is a great leader, and he makes sure, like, we have an idea, he'll yay or nay it, and I like that part because they're around those people all the time. They have a relationship with them. They are their neighbor, per se, and they know who Andre is, they know who Alex is, and they have their trust. And so Alex and Andres has the people's best interests in mind for the love of Christ, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing story because it does. I think that a lot of people think about mission trips and they think that it is to, hey, we're going to go and we're going to baptize this whole community. We're going to take them and we're going to plant a flag, if you will, over there and say, this is now a Christian community and these people are now baptized and look at how good of a job that we did. But that's not the case.
One thing I was very aware of, when you go do things, you have to, like, when you go do your job, you're aware of certain things. And I was aware of, I am not I'm not going to save these people. Cody can't save anyone. It's Christ who saves them. But then again, I didn't want to go on a missionary vacation, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I'm not going to take pictures of the people. I'm not going to say, oh, pitiful, poor them. That's not why I'm going. And that was very important for me to understand that I think you see a lot of people who they go out of country on missions trip. And yeah, I told people I was going on a mission trip and what we were doing. But while we were over there, I didn't post a bunch of pictures. I still haven't posted a bunch of pictures. It was life-changing for me. And I kind of want to keep that personal. I don't want to say personal, but, I don't want that trip to ever be, oh, poor them. because a lot of them had a better relationship with Christ than me. A lot of them rely on him a whole lot more than I do. And it was definitely life changing and made me. Biggest part of that is it was personal. I'll go to the personal aspect of it. We had 2 vehicles, and there was 4 of us. And so Joe and I got to spend some time together. Ben and I got to spend some time together, and Robert and I got to spend some time together. And we all got to kind of know each other. I won't go in big detail about that, but we had personal time with each other.
Yeah.
And then in the mornings, we'd get up at 5 and we'd begin our Bible study. And we got to see what was on each other's hearts. We would read 2 to 3 chapters a day. And then we would... Ben has started a thing called faith huddles. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
No.
But we have faith huddles, and it's a small group. Men are with men, women are with women. I don't think we have any intermixed, married or anything. So it's just men with men and women with women. And we read 5 to 6 chapters a week. And then we meet once a week for about an hour or 2. And we go through our challenges of the week. Where did we fall? What challenged us? So we did that while we were in Africa, and we would go over what challenged us yesterday, what really opened our eyes today, what can we do better today when we go out. And the word that we read each day, Ben would challenge us to write 1 word for the chapters we read, and that really challenged me too. One of the verses, I'm not good at remembering verses, but it was talking about where are you throwing your seed? Are you throwing it on rocks? Are you throwing it on sand? Where are you throwing it? And the biggest thing that stuck out to me is when we throw out seed, and especially over there, is the ground prepped? So you see a field here at home, there's a bunch of rocks in it. That field's not going to produce the highest yield when you put out seed. But if you prep that ground and you make a relationship with somebody and you help them, you don't do it for them, but you help them pull those rocks out. You help them take out the sand and put in better dirt, and then you plant that seed. Then what? What do you do now? Do you just let that seed do its own thing? No, you got to water it. You got to fertilize it. You've got to go and you got to pick weeds out. And I think that's important for not only that mission trip, but I've brought that here home with me I'll plant that seed. And it's almost like you abandon someone after you plant that seed.
Yeah.
You don't call them, you don't text them, you don't see how their day's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for me is that follow-up is, hey, how are you doing today? What's going on? Someone might say, hey, this is where I'm struggling, and you pluck that weed and you say, let me help you. And that's the biggest part for me.
Well, that's a great that's a great application of that parable, the sower and the seeds. That I don't know that I've heard anybody put it quite like that before.
Well, that came to me when we were over in Africa doing our study. So, because you look at it and you look at anything in life and you talk about all aspects of our life, and we look at you look at abortion, and everyone says they're against it, they're for it. We get someone to save a baby, the baby lives, but then we disappear afterwards. We don't help that mother raise it and whatnot. And that's the same with when we plant the seed of Christ in somebody, we don't help them stay on the road. We don't help that plant grow. We don't pluck those weeds. And accountability also. I think you as my brother and me as your brother, if you see me doing something out of the ordinary, I want to be held accountable. And I think that goes in with planting the seed with people is we've got to be able to be held accountable.
Are you going back?
I would like to. I won't be able to this year just with everything going on. But that is my goal, is to go back.
Your energy, I'm certain, infectious over there, and it's infectious here with the children. And how did you had said before early in this conversation that you had intended on not having any children. You ended up with 2 bonus children, but you are at the center of kids ministry at TBCC.
So I'm one of the kids church leaders. I lead big class a lot on Sundays. I like to be loud. The story I share with a lot of people is when we started there, to remember your memory verse. If you remembered it, you got a coupon for a small fry at McDonald's. And for Mr. Cody, that wasn't cutting it. And so I think one of our first prize Sundays, when you remembered your memory verse, you got to pie me in the face. So we made Cool Whip pies, and you just hit me in the face. And we've done anything from writing on my head. You get to write your name with a Sharpie on my head. As you can see, I don't have much hair. Making me into ice cream sundae. There was a mystery Sunday where they brought cans of whatever they wanted and they could dump it on me. I don't recommend it. SpaghettiOs was by far the worst. Just challenging them and letting them to see that Mr. Cody is no better than you. And being part of that. And one Sunday, I think we were doing ice cream sundae. So I had brought in a 55-gallon drum that I cut in half, plastic drum, and I made half that barrel full of green slime. It was flour, cornstarch, water, green food dye, and we had made our homemade Nickelodeon slime.
Yeah.
And this parent came up to me and she said, "Mr. Cody, what you're doing is great." And I said, "No, it's just God working through me," the typical answer. And she said, "No, you don't get it. We weren't going to come to church today. We were out late last night. We got home and we said, we'll just watch church later when we get up." And she said, "Our daughter woke us up and Mom said, 'Mom, we got to go. We got to go.' And she said, 'No, we're not going.' And she said, 'You don't understand. I get to slime Mr. Cody.'" And the mom said, "No, your brother and sister aren't up yet." She said, "No, they're fed. They're up. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, we're waiting on you." And so they got up and they came to church, and she said, "My husband and I needed to listen to what was upstairs."
Yeah.
God had a message for us in person.
That's amazing.
And that right there showed me that I'm just a little part of that. God's got bigger plans and bigger ideas, and it's not just the kids, it's the parents too.
Putting the time in ahead of time is huge. It goes back to what you were just describing about the parable of the sower and continuing to nurture and continuing to water that seed, because those actions that you do outside of church, you're having to prepare and think of that, and to put that much effort into making a big thing of slime is huge.
So I had mentors that put a lot of time in me, and so for me it's just a little bit. And another thing, you talking about time, my wife and I we just got done with ball season, so we try to go to a couple Little League games every year so the kids know, hey, Mr. Cody's not just at church. He'll come out too and support us. And I got the opportunity to announce the All-Stars for Little League and, get to use my Demolition Derby voice and announce those kids' names coming out on the field. And, some of those kids were like, "That's my kids' church teacher," or "That's the guy from church." And biggest thing for me, and some people may think this is really small, I try to remember every child's name that's in our kids' church.
Oh, yeah.
Just because when someone remembers my name, even out in public, when I first moved here, there was a guy, the late Larry Gregson. He's good friends with my uncle. He remembered my name at Save-A-Lot. We were in Save-A-Lot, and I'm thinking, this guy doesn't know who I am. He said, "Hey, Cody, how are you doing? Settling in good?" And I'll never forget the feeling I had. I was like, wow, that guy remembered my name. So I try to remember all of our kids' church kids' names. And do I get it wrong? Absolutely. But I try to get it right just because I want them to know that I care about them and I want them to feel special too.
Yeah.
And so just being there for them and not abandoning them during the week.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, Mr. Cody falls during the week too. Don't think I'm perfect, because I'm not. And when I'm teaching you, I'm teaching myself as well.
Yeah.
And just being held accountable. I used that word earlier, and I want them to hold me accountable, and I want to be held accountable too. And one thing I like to do is I try to mix them up. I'll ask them, how many animals did Moses bring on the ark?
All of them. None of them. Oh, yeah, you got
See?
me. There we go. I walked
there.
right into that.
Yep. And I try to curve on words and get them to think, because a lot of kids or people, sometimes they're just watching you and they're not paying attention. And so if you say that, they're like, oh, wait. So we try to mess them up. And I'll ask them, how many tacos do you have to eat during the week to get into heaven? And many of them were, Mr. Cody, that's not how you get into heaven. And that's what I want.
That is good. So talking about tacos, how did the food review version come about? Where did that come from?
So one day I walked into Patriot Mart. I started there, and they call her Mama T. I really don't know her real name. And she said, we're trying something new. We've got cinnamon rolls. And she handed me this nice, hot, fresh cinnamon roll. It was nice and gooey in the middle. And I got my truck, and I've done some Facebook Lives in the past. And I was like, I'm going to make a Facebook Live. And I just went crazy, loud, woo! The air punching thing was born. And the next day, someone said, hey, we really like that video. You should do another. And that just kind of progressed in doing I try to do one or two a day. And it's not really a food review for me. It's more getting someone excited, jacked up for the day. You wake up in the morning, you really don't want to go to work, but then you watch this video and this guy's hollering. And biggest thing for me is at almost every end of the video, you'll see I say, if you have a chance to be kind to someone, do it. And God bless. I hope you have a great day. And for me, that's just I don't have to shove anything down anyone's throat. And I think that's planting seeds. I have tons of people that come in the funeral home and they're like, you're the guy on TikTok, or we'll be at Walmart. We're in Sam's Club in Clarksville, and some guy said, I just watched your food review video. And for me, it's just the energy that I'm able to bring to people, and just making someone's day, because you never know. Someone's doom scrolling, as I call it, on Facebook, and all of a sudden this guy's like, that's for me the positivity.
It definitely is positive, and it's part of the infectiousness of the joy that you have. It comes through in those food reviews.
And none of it's scripted. So if you see a reaction, I tried watermelon water. I did not like it. That was a true reaction, and I still drank it because I said I bought it, so I'm going to drink it. And so everything is, a true love reaction, and, nothing is pre-planned really.
Yeah. It comes across, it's so genuine. And I think about the reason why I wanted to jump from the kids to this. I think I see that similar church kids pastor in those reviews, because it's nothing but joy that I see coming out of those each and every time. And I can tell you, it definitely brightens my day. I don't go, I'm not swayed to go and try energy drinks. I'm not swayed to go and get a cinnamon roll, but I am swayed to be in a better mood. I'm swayed to be nicer to people. I'm swayed to let my cares drop away. And I think it's such a powerful thing that you're doing.
That's just one way God's using me, and it's just so exciting, because we'll get back to the everyone's going through something every day, and I've been in homes, many times of, you look at my home life as I was young, it wasn't, I always had a home to go to, but it wasn't stable. And so I have an understanding that there's kids that we come in contact with that does not have a stable home. And so if they can go to TVC, or they can go to kids' church anywhere, it doesn't have to be where I'm at, and they have a positive, stable relationship with those around them, it's just going to do so much good for their heart.
I think it also shows that man that is there on Sundays is the same man on Thursday mornings or on Tuesday mornings or any time, that it gives you a continuity of spirit the whole week, where people are like, he's not putting on. That is how he is. His joy is infectious.
In a couple years ago, that really hit me in the face. We were at Demolition Derby here in Paris, and my son's car was spewing hot liquid everywhere, and I ran out on the track. I almost got ran over by a car, slapped the guy's hood, and there was a confrontation between me and the other guy. And Sunday morning, I walk in kids' church, and one of the parents said, "Mr. Cody, I thought you were about to put that smack down on somebody." And I realized right then and there, and these things hit you in the face, that I'm being watched no matter where we are. So, no matter where we're at a derby or I'm out in public at Walmart, I'm being watched.
Definitely.
And so whenever I come in contact with a kids' church kid outside of kids' church, or they know me, I'm going to be as loud as I can. I'm like, "How are you?" Just perfect example. Yesterday, I was asked to go to Paris Elementary.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, John Penn Ridgway called me and said, "You want to help me change a tire for some kids at the Teen Academy?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that's just kind of spiraled into, I'm known as the tire changing guy. And I went to Paris Elementary and taught about, I want to say 60 kids, maybe 50 kids, how to change a tire. And I had a lot of kids' church kids, and I flipped that switch, and I was loud and I was obnoxious. And they said, "Now the third graders are going to come in, and they're going to outmatch your energy." And so I went to lunch, I shotgunned another C4, and I came back in, and I was energetic and wound up, and I thought about sticking a fork in a socket to get a little more energy. Have you ever done that before?
What?
Stick a fork in the socket?
Yes.
Buddy, it'll light you up.
I mean, the answer is truly yes. I mean, I hate to admit it.
Yeah. Your hair will be up. You're ready to go.
That's the bad. I think that's why they don't show the cartoons of my youth anymore, because those were the Bugs Bunny or somebody.
My life is one of those cartoons.
It really is. It really is. You believe you can love everyone.
Yes.
Why?
Because everyone's loved me. Just everyone that has guided me to where I am today has loved me. And you might have some people who don't take that love. Then you move on to the next one. You leave the 99 for that one. So my life has been that.
If somebody spent one day with you, what do you hope they would walk away feeling?
That you can love everybody. That you don't have to let the things in your life determine your day, if that makes sense. Like, good example right now, we're in the middle of remodeling a house for our son. It was left to him, and we went in and we're having to rip out everything. And at first I was like, yeah, this is kind of irritating, but now I'm like, yeah, we get to do this. Like, I was shoving a hammer through walls last night, just having the time of my life. And we can make anything better. You can be having the worst day of your life, and you can make it better.
Yeah.
And I've got to do that at work. People are having the worst day of their life, and they come in and they say, "Hey, you're the TikTok guy," or "Hey, what are we food reviewing today?" We had someone come in not too long ago. Their father-in-law had passed away, and first thing out of her mouth after I said sorry, and she said, "What are we reviewing today?" So,
all right. So let's do some rapid fire here.
Okay.
I'm going to start. I'm going to throw out some of these reviews, and you're going to give me answers. Okay.
All right. We'll see.
All right. So, favorite food review.
Gonna be Patriot Mart cinnamon roll.
Favorite restaurant.
Gonna be Musto's, or does it have to be in Paris?
I'd be anywhere. This is you. This is you. Favorite restaurant?
Sperry's in Nashville.
Oh, nice. Best meal ever.
I'm gonna say it was our Sperry's in Nashville with my wife for my 30th birthday. Someone I love, and we got to enjoy everything we ordered, and the dessert just melted on my mouth. Oh,
Favorite Bible verse?
oh, you had to do that one. I'm not good at memorizing verses. I'm gonna have to say it's let's go to it. Give me a second. It's gonna be when Paul talked about that my reward's in heaven, but I'm gonna do my job here on earth, until I'm called back. I can't remember where that's at, but because every day, I'm gonna live that life.
Yeah. Most underrated thing in life? What's the most underrated thing in life?
Joy.
Most overrated thing in life?
Money.
Favorite energy drink?
Gonna have to say it's the Rain Rainbow Sherbet. All day.
What is the thing that you want people to leave here knowing about Cody? What is it that if you didn't have anything else to tell anybody, what would you want them to know?
That my dash has got me to where I am. That we talked about earlier, living in your dash, living that little point of that knife.
Cody, you've brought joy to Word today. You brought joy to me, and I'm going to tell you, I have got work to do to keep up with you. You are as genuine sitting here as you are out on the sled, up announcing at the demolition derby, or being slimed. You are a joyous person and living for Christ, and I'm so glad you came in.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a joy.
Good.
Are we going to do a food review next?
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.